The morning the security guard told him to wait outside the employee entrance, Rowan Mercer looked down at the worn cleaning shoes he had borrowed from a neighbor and wondered how life had fallen apart so completely. Once, people had stood when he entered a room. Once, his signature had approved million-dollar engineering projects that changed cities. Now, he was praying that someone would simply give him a mop, because feeding his little daughter mattered more than pride. He had no idea that before the sun set, one billionaire would read his application, recognize a forgotten name, and uncover a story that would shake an entire company. Before we begin, if you believe kindness and second chances can change lives, please take a moment to like this video, leave a comment telling us where you're watching from, share this story with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe to Kindness Legacy. Every act of support helps us share more stories that remind the world compassion still exists. The city looked beautiful in the daylight, but beauty meant little to Rowan anymore. Towering glass buildings reflected the morning sun while expensive cars glided silently through spotless streets. He noticed none of it. His attention remained fixed on the small lunchbox in his backpack. Inside was a peanut butter sandwich he had made for his 8-year-old daughter, Hazel, before dropping her off at school. He had quietly skipped breakfast again so she would never have to. Only 3 years earlier, Rowan had enjoyed a stable career as a respected civil engineer. He was never famous, but his colleagues admired his honesty, precision, and willingness to mentor younger employees. Then tragedy arrived without warning. His wife, Mira, was killed by a reckless driver during a rainy evening commute. In a single night, Rowan lost the love of his life while Hazel lost her mother. Grief did not arrive as tears alone. It came as sleepless nights, forgotten deadlines, anxiety attacks, and months of trying to pretend everything was normal. Eventually, Rowan lost his position. Interview after interview ended politely until employers discovered the long employment gap or questioned his emotional stability. Bills piled higher, savings disappeared, his apartment became smaller each year until he and Hazel moved into a modest one-bedroom unit where the heating barely worked. Still, every morning he smiled for Hazel. She never saw the rejection emails. She never heard him cry after she fell asleep. She never knew he spent evenings calculating whether electricity or groceries mattered more that week. When he saw the advertisement for a janitor position at Halcyon Global Industries, Rowan hesitated only for a second. Pride had become a luxury he could no longer afford. Honest work was honest work. The receptionist accepted his application without looking twice. His resume, however, looked strangely different from everyone else's. Years of engineering awards sat beside a request for an entry-level custodial position. The folder eventually reached the executive office because someone believed it had been submitted by mistake. Billionaire CEO Alistair Vaughan happened to be reviewing unusual applications that afternoon. He almost set the file aside. Then his eyes stopped. Rowan Mercer. The name echoed through memories buried nearly 25 years deep. Alistair leaned back slowly. It couldn't be. He opened the attached resume again. The age matched. The hometown matched. His heartbeat quickened. Long before he became one of the country's youngest billionaires, Alistair had grown up in a struggling neighborhood where opportunity rarely knocked twice. His widowed mother worked double shifts, and school often seemed impossible. During one particularly difficult year, a quiet university student named Rowan Mercer volunteered every Saturday at the local community center, tutoring children in mathematics and science. Alistair had been one of those children. Most volunteers came for certificates or photographs. Rowan came because he genuinely cared. He stayed late to explain homework. He repaired broken bicycles. He quietly paid competition fees when talented students couldn't afford them. Most importantly, he once looked into the frightened eyes of a 12-year-old boy and said that intelligence meant nothing without kindness. Those words never left Alistair. Without Rowan's encouragement, he doubted he would have earned the scholarship that eventually transformed his future. Now the man who had once lifted others was applying to clean office floors. Alistair cancelled his afternoon meetings. Instead of summoning executives, he walked downstairs alone. Rowan sat quietly in the waiting area reading a children's library book. He planned to return it to Hazel after school because she loved adventure stories. Alistair recognized him immediately despite the gray hair and exhausted face. Time had changed appearances. Character had not. Rather than announcing himself, Alistair sat nearby and observed. When another applicant accidentally spilled coffee across the floor, Rowan instinctively stood, grabbed nearby paper towels, and helped clean the mess before anyone asked. Nobody thanked him. He simply smiled and returned to his seat. That small moment confirmed everything Alistair remembered. Kindness had survived hardship. The interview surprised everyone. Instead of human resources leading the conversation, the billionaire himself entered. Executives exchanged confused glances. Rowan looked equally puzzled. As the interview began, Alistair asked unusual questions. He did not ask why Rowan wanted the job. He asked what success meant after losing everything. Rowan answered honestly. Success was seeing his daughter laugh. Success was paying rent on time. Success was sleeping peacefully knowing he had earned an honest day's wage. Money mattered, he admitted, but dignity mattered more. There was no self-pity in his voice. Only quiet determination. Then Alistair asked whether Rowan remembered volunteering at the old community center decades ago. Rowan searched his memory. Faces blurred together after so many years. Then recognition slowly appeared. He remembered the shy boy who loved solving impossible math puzzles. The boy whose mother always apologized for arriving late because of work. The boy who dreamed bigger than anyone else. Alistair smiled for the first time. Neither man noticed the executives silently watching through the conference room windows. The billionaire stood. Without hesitation, he crossed the room and embraced Rowan. Several employees gasped. No one had ever seen their CEO greet an applicant that way. Word spread through the building within minutes. People assumed Rowan must secretly be a powerful investor. Others guessed he was a government official. The truth proved far more meaningful. Alistair gathered department leaders inside the auditorium that same afternoon. Instead of delivering another quarterly business presentation filled with charts and financial forecasts, he told them about a forgotten volunteer who had invested time instead of money. He explained how one compassionate college student had changed the direction of countless children's lives without expecting recognition. He reminded every employee that greatness is measured not only by wealth but by the lives quietly lifted along the way. Many wiped tears from their eyes. Some remembered teachers, neighbors, or relatives who had believed in them during difficult years. Then Alistair made an announcement nobody expected. Rowan would indeed receive employment, but not as a janitor. He would become director of community outreach, leading educational programs, scholarship partnerships, and employee volunteer initiatives across every branch of Halcyon Global Industries. Rowan was speechless. He insisted there were more qualified candidates. Alistair disagreed. Leadership could be taught. Character could not. That evening Rowan picked Hazel up from school. She noticed he looked different. Not happier exactly. Lighter. As though an invisible weight had finally slipped from his shoulders. When he explained everything, Hazel wrapped her tiny arms around him and cried into his jacket. For the first time since losing her mother, she saw genuine hope return to her father's eyes. Over the following months, remarkable things happened. Employees volunteered in record numbers. Scholarship programs expanded into neighborhoods most corporations had ignored. Weekend mentoring sessions filled community centers with laughter. Retired teachers joined. University students volunteered. Children who had once believed success belonged only to wealthy families suddenly met professionals willing to guide them. Rowan never forgot where he had almost ended up. He visited the custodial staff every week. He learned every cleaner's name. He made sure executives treated maintenance workers with equal respect. Because he knew exactly how invisible those jobs could feel. One rainy afternoon, Rowan quietly noticed a nervous single mother applying for a cafeteria position. Her resume revealed she had once been an accomplished accountant before family illness interrupted her career. Others dismissed her. Rowan remembered his own application. Instead of judging her circumstances, he offered an interview for the finance department. Months later she became one of the company's most trusted managers. Kindness had begun creating more kindness. The cycle continued. Years passed. Halcyon became known not only for profits but for compassion. Business magazines praised its culture. Investors admired employee loyalty. Communities celebrated its outreach programs. Whenever journalists asked Alistair what inspired such remarkable change, he never mentioned business strategy. He simply smiled and said that every empire stands on foundations someone else quietly built. Sometimes those foundations are concrete. Sometimes they are acts of kindness remembered decades later. One sunny afternoon, Rowan and Hazel visited the same community center where everything had begun. The building had been renovated, but one classroom remained untouched. Children laughed exactly as they had years earlier. Hazel watched her father help another frightened child solve a difficult math problem. She realized something beautiful. Her father had never stopped being the man he truly was. Life had buried his gifts beneath pain, grief, and hardship. But goodness waits patiently. The right person simply has to recognize it. Before leaving, Rowan noticed a framed plaque hanging beside the entrance. It read, "The smallest act of kindness may become someone else's greatest turning point." He smiled quietly, not because his name appeared beneath it, but because he understood those words better than anyone. If this story touched your heart, please take a moment to like this video, leave a heartfelt comment, share it with your friends and family, and subscribe to Kindness Legacy. Your support helps us continue sharing stories that inspire hope, compassion, and second chances around the world. Blue Heart special request: comment below with the words, "Kindness always comes back." We'd love to see how many people still believe that one good deed can change someone's entire future. As Rowan walked home holding Hazel's hand beneath the warm, afternoon sunlight, he realized the greatest miracle was never becoming successful again. The real miracle was discovering that genuine kindness is never truly forgotten. Years may pass, fortunes may rise and fall, and people may disappear from our lives, but every sincere act of compassion plants a seed somewhere in the world. One day, often when hope feels completely lost, that seed grows into the very blessing we need most. And perhaps that is life's greatest truth, that no act of kindness is ever wasted, because the hearts we touch today may become the hands that lift us tomorrow.